The hum of the highway is a lullaby, isn't it? A constant, droning promise of arrival. But what if that promise was a lie? What if, in the heart of America, that lullaby was a prelude to something far more sinister? Tonight, we're venturing into the vast, open stretches of Oklahoma, a state known for its endless skies and, as some whispers suggest, something far more unsettling lurking beneath. You see, there's a quiet, persistent warning that echoes among truckers, a hushed piece of advice passed down from one generation of road warriors to the next. Never sleep in your car in Oklahoma. Not just because of petty crime or the occasional odd stranger. No, this warning carries a deeper chill, a primal fear that taps into something ancient and unknowable. My name is Alex, and for years my life was lived on the asphalt ribbon connecting cities, delivering cargo and chasing deadlines. I've seen my share of strange things on the road. The phantom hitchhikers, the unexplained lights in the distance, the towns that feel like they're holding their breath. But Oklahoma was different. It always had a particular weight to it, a subtle pressure in the air that you couldn't quite place, but you absolutely felt. The first time I heard the warning, it came from an old-timer named Silas, his face etched with years of sun and worry lines. We were at a truck stop in Arkansas, sharing lukewarm coffee. He just looked at me, his eyes wide and serious, and said, "Kid, you ever find yourself tired in Oklahoma? You drive to the next state, you hear me? You don't pull over, you don't close your eyes in that cab, not for a second." I laughed it off, of course. Young, invincible, fueled by caffeine and the delusion of open roads. "What's the big deal, Silas? Bad gas prices?" He didn't crack a smile. "No, son, worse. Things that watch, things that wait." He left it at that, a cryptic pronouncement that lingered in the stale air of the diner. I dismissed it as trucker superstition, another tall tale spun to pass the endless hours. Until, that is, I found myself in the exact situation Silas had warned me about. It was a late autumn night, the kind where the air bites with a surprising chill, even in Oklahoma. I was on a run from Dallas to Kansas City, pushing through the night. The fatigue was a physical weight pressing down on my eyelids, making the white lines on the highway blur into an endless stream. I had promised myself I'd make it to Tulsa, at least, but my body was screaming for rest. My rig, a battered freightliner named the Wanderer, felt like it was driving itself. I saw a small, unmarked dirt road leading off the highway, barely visible in the darkness. It looked like an old service road, probably leading to some abandoned farm or a forgotten oil rig. Against my better judgment, against Silas's words, I turned off. Just for an hour, I told myself. Just enough to shake off the worst of the drowsiness. The silence that enveloped me the moment I cut the engine was absolute. It wasn't just the absence of highway noise, it was a profound, almost suffocating quiet. The kind of quiet that makes your ears ring. I reclined the seat, pulled my worn blanket over me, and tried to drift off, but sleep wouldn't come. Every creak of the truck, every rustle of dry leaves outside was amplified. My mind, usually quick to shut down after a long day, was buzzing with an inexplicable anxiety. I found myself staring out into the darkness, trying to pierce the black veil that hung over the landscape. There were no stars visible, just an oppressive, inky blackness. Then I heard it. A sound, faint at first, like a whisper carried on a distant breeze. It wasn't English, it wasn't Spanish or French, or any language I recognized from my travels. It was guttural, rhythmic, almost a chant. Pitoma, pitoma. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, a low, resonant thrum that vibrated through the metal of the truck. My heart started to pound. I sat up, straining my ears, trying to pinpoint the source. It grew louder, more distinct, like multiple voices joining in a strange chorus. Pitomashi, pitomashi. My breath hitched in my throat. I fumbled for my phone, the screen a sudden blinding beacon in the darkness. No signal. Of course. I gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white. The air inside the cab felt heavy, thick with an unseen presence. I could feel my skin prickle, a cold dread seeping into my bones. The chanting continued, a relentless foreign cadence. It was unsettling in a way I couldn't articulate, a sound that felt ancient, wrong. Suddenly, a flicker of movement in my peripheral vision. I spun my head, my eyes darting to the passenger side window. Nothing, just the impenetrable darkness. But I felt it, a sensation of being watched, of eyes fixed upon me from beyond the glass. The chanting intensified, faster now, more urgent. Petomashide-to, Petomashide-to. It felt like it was closing in. I started the engine. The roar of the diesel a welcome, if temporary, shield against the encroaching dread. I slammed the truck into reverse, my tires spitting gravel as I turned the Wanderer around. I had to get out, to get back to the highway, to the artificial comfort of streetlights and other human beings. As I sped back towards the main road, the chanting seemed to follow me, a spectral echo in my rearview mirror. I risked a quick glance. In the distance, where I had just been parked, I saw them. Figures. Tall, slender silhouettes moving silently among the sparse trees. They weren't human. Their movements were too fluid, too unnatural. They seemed to glide rather than walk, their forms indistinct against the blackness, yet undeniably there. I pressed the accelerator, pushing the old Freightliner faster than I ever had before. The warning from Silas echoed in my mind, no longer a superstition but a terrifying reality. I didn't stop until I crossed the state line into Kansas. The first gas station I found bathed in the harsh fluorescent glow of a cheap convenience store. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the coffee cup. I called Silas from a payphone. He answered on the second ring, his voice gruff. "You listened to old Silas, did you, kid?" I told him everything, the chanting, the figures, the crushing sense of dread. He listened patiently, quietly. When I finished, there was a long pause. "They got a name for 'em, them old ones," he finally said, his voice low. "The Shadow Walkers. Some say they're spirits of the land, ancient tribes that never left. Others say they're something older, something that predates even the tribes." He explained that these entities, these shadow walkers, were drawn to stillness, to vulnerability, especially in the deep, forgotten pockets of Oklahoma. They fed on fear, on the quiet desperation of those who dared to rest where they shouldn't. Their language, he said, was a corruption of old tongues, a mix of forgotten dialects and something else, something alien. "Pe-tomashi-de-to," he repeated, mimicking the sound I'd heard. It means the slumbering, in one of the old dialects, combined with something else. Something about the taking. He told me that countless truckers had simply vanished over the years, their rigs found empty, doors ajar, everything else undisturbed. No signs of struggle, no evidence of foul play. Just gone. The official reports always blame fatigue or runaways or even alien abduction in the more outlandish cases. But Silas knew, and now so did I. It wasn't just truckers, he added. Campers, lost travelers, even a few local families who ventured too deep into the wilderness. The pattern was always the same, a sudden, inexplicable silence, followed by a profound sense of isolation, and then the whispers, the chanting, the feeling of being watched. He mentioned a story about a German tourist, a young woman named Greta, who had been driving through Oklahoma a few years prior. She had pulled over to sleep in her rental car near a desolate stretch of highway, much like I had. Her car was found days later, perfectly intact, but she was gone. Her journal was still on the passenger seat, open to a recent entry. It was written in German, of course, but the last few lines, hastily scrawled, had been translated by the local authorities. "Ich höre Stimmen, sie sind überall. Sie wollen mich nicht schlafen lassen. Ich muss weiterfahren, aber ich kann nicht." Which translates to, "I hear voices, they are everywhere. They don't want me to sleep. I have to keep driving, but I can't." Silas also recalled a story from his own youth, an encounter his grandfather had shared. His grandfather, a man of Choctaw descent, had warned him about specific areas, places where the veil between worlds was thin. He called them slipping places. In those places, the air itself seemed to hum with a different frequency. His grandfather had spoken of hearing a language that was not of this earth, a series of clicks and whistles that seemed to twist the very fabric of reality. Hatatolana, he had tried to mimic, a sound that made Silas shiver even decades later. He believed these sounds were attempts to lure, to disorient, to make the victim vulnerable to the Shadow Walker's true purpose. I never slept in my truck in Oklahoma again. Not once. I would push through, no matter how tired, or pull into a well-lit truck stop, surrounded by other people, other lights, other engines. The memory of those figures, those strange ancient chants, is burned into my mind. I've tried to research the phenomenon, to find any official reports or historical accounts of such entities. Nothing concrete, just scattered local legends, hushed warnings, and the occasional unexplained disappearance in the dusty annals of police records. It's always the same. No struggle, no trace, just a void where a person once was. So the next time you find yourself on a long drive, especially through the vast, empty stretches of Oklahoma, remember this story. Remember Silas's warning. Remember Greta's desperate journal entry. Remember the guttural chanting that still echoes in my nightmares. The road can be a lonely place, a place where the ordinary blurs into the extraordinary, where the mundane can give way to the truly terrifying. And sometimes in those lonely places, there are things that wait, things that watch, things that don't want you to sleep. If you've ever had an encounter on the road, something unexplainable, something that made the hair on your arm stand up, share your experience in the comments below. We're building a community here, a place where these stories can be told, where we can find solidarity in the face of the unknown. And if you're ever tempted to pull over and rest your eyes in the quiet darkness of Oklahoma, just keep driving. You don't know what might be watching, waiting for you to close your eyes.